that was formative for me too. My my memories of driving around in Israel as a kid in a whatever the lowest form of rented car available to our family.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like with only occasionally working air conditioning, but the cassette player. And I feel like there was one summer where we literally only played Cat Stevens album over and over again. So if I hear any Cat Stevens songs, I have
That's so
something of a traumatic response to it.
yeah.
But yeah, but all of my like formative musical stuff is from cassette tapes in cars.
Wow.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, thank God that folks had good taste in music. That was really important.
Yeah, we had both cassette tapes and then we upgraded to like the CD player that was in the back.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh no, I
so you
remember.
got
Yeah,
six
six
at a
disc
time.
one. Yeah. No, we had that too. That was space age at the time.
Yeah,
It felt like
That was
a real.
so
You know,
new, yeah.
no, I remember.
you could cycle through so many different CDs.
Remember that's like everybody's
popping them in and out of the front.
Everybody's home system was like, how many CDs can you fit in?
Oh, yeah.
Like a 60 in one or 100 in one.
Well, we had like a mini
Wow.
home theater like room, and so we had like
That's
DVD
nice.
shelves and shelves of
Yeah.
DVDs, and now it's like
Yeah.
Netflix, Hulu. It's like
No, that's we had that with
It's insane.
VHS tapes. Like my folks bought all the Disney movies, so that we literally
Yeah,
up
we had
until
those.
very recently.
Oh yeah,
holding on
I think
to-
everyone has those VHSs.
There will become a point though where all that just like
What-
Beanie Babies and Pokemon.
Just show someone like, what is this? I don't
Yeah.
know.
Oh no, I've tried to explain. We were watching the black and white original Addams Family with.
Yeah, wow, yeah.
She's like, why is this black and
Why is
white?
it black and white?
Well, there's this thing called physics. And,
Wow.
and the
Yeah.
times we couldn't make it work, but anyway.
Modern technology.
Modern technology. Speaking of things we're grateful for as we begin our service with gratitude. Right?
Look at
Modern
that.
technology. Look at that transition. There should be
Big class.
there should be
a class on
there
that.
really should be a class. But that's why I keep like I would feel really too egotistical suggesting myself for this. But it's why I really think that like I was talking to Rabbi Franklin in East Hampton because he's like me and
Yeah.
he does a lot of stuff off the cuff. And I said, when the homiletics class that's being taught at HUC is still of a very particular style, understanding,
Sure it is.
which is preparing how to write an actual sermon and deliver a sermon from a written page. But a lot of stuff that we end up doing in the field, whether you're that style or not, is like impromptu. And there is technique to it. And
Yeah.
I feel like it would be worthwhile to just carve out like 2 classes and give them over to somebody who is good at that kind of stuff and transitions and stuff like that, because that's a good portion of the job.
Maybe talk to anyone who's doing senior seminar, stuff like that. Come in for a class.
Sir, yeah, no, I used to every once in a while. I'm certain still doing it, but I could certainly write
Yeah.
them. But I feels like that. I don't. That writing,
hear you.
I
hear
like,
you.
yeah.
Well, because I know they're starting to teach us budgets and things like that. Another
Are they really?
thing they finally started doing that. That's part of
Wow.
the mentorship class. The cantors are now getting, which is lovely.
Look at that. The things we're learning.
Progress, but it's
See, this is-
slow.
this
It's
is-
really slow.
This is why it's important to show up for the first 5 minutes of services, because the handful of people who are watching get this inside look into the life of rabbis and cantors,
Uh-huh.
life at HUC. Again, things to be grateful for on page 186. We'll start together, very top of the page. Modeh ani lefanecha melech haim. Modeh For thanks to you, Adonai, ever living sovereign, that you have restored my soul to me in mercy. How great is your trust. Or now to Matovu, page 192. Right, we're going to turn now to page 194 at the very top of the page.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam. אשר יצר את האדם בחוכמה, וברבו מקרים מדוד, חלולים חלולים, גלוי וידוע מפני חסדי כבודך, שאם יפתח אחד מהם, או יסתם אחד מהם, אי אפשר להתקיים ולעמוד לפניך. ברוך אתה אדוני רופא כל בשר ומפליא לעשות.
Turn now to page 196, a prayer for our souls.
Elohai, Elohai, Neshama, Shenatata bi Tehorati, Ata berata, Ata yitzarta, Ata nefachta bi, Ve'ata meshamrach bekirbi. Elohai, Elohai, neshama, shenatata bi tehorahi.
Baruch atah Adonai asher bi'ado nefesh kol chai beruach kol besar ish. We're now on page 198. We'll rise in body or spirit, beginning at the very top of the page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan l'sachvi bina le'achrin ben yom u'ben layla. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam u'mkei ha'ivrim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir ha'asurim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokeh kefuchim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam rokach tzaddim. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu haolam hamechil mitzadei kavod. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu haolam malei shalom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu haolam Baruch atah Eloheinu haolam Baruch atah Adonai Shasani b'tzedek Elohim. Baruch atah Adonai Shasani b'echorim. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim Shasani Israel. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim Mosei Israel b'Yehuda. Baruch atah Adonai Elohim Please be seated. We're now on page 204. We'll begin by reading at the top of the page in Hebrew and then the English at the bottom. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu la'asok b'divrei Torah. O Adonai our God, let the words of Torah be sweet in our mouths and the mouths of your people Israel, so that we, our descendants, and the descendants of all your people Israel, may know you by studying your Torah for its own sake. Blessed are you, Adonai, who teaches Torah to your people Israel. Baruch atah Adonai, hamelamed Torah l'amo Yisrael. Page 206 at the very top. Elu devarim asher imahem shirot, gadam pertehem ba'ad, ve'akeren chayim lo leolam. ואלוהי עיבורה חסדים השגמת בית המדרש החריש בערבית והכנסת אורחים וביקור חולים והכנסת כלה לוויית המת ועיון תפילה והבאת שלום בין אדם לחברו ותעמוד תמורה כנגד כולם. We'll turn now to page 212 and we'll rise in body or spirit for the opening blessing of Pazuk Yisrael. Baruch She'amar Baruch Oseh Bereshit Baruch Omer Ve'oseh Baruch Ozer U'Mekayem Baruch Merachem Al Haaretz Baruch Merachem Al Habriyot Baruch Meshalem Zachar Tol Yireh Baruch Chayam Netzach Baruch Bodeh U'Matzil Baruch Shemo Bishvachot U'Bizmirot Negadelcha U'Nshabech Chanapercha V'Naskir Shimcha V'Namlicha Malkeinu Eloheinu Yachid Chai Olamim Melech Meshubach U'Mufoar De'at Shemo HaGadol Baruch Atah Adonai Melech Mehulal Batishvachot. Please be seated, page 214. Ale Asur Vale Navel, Ale Gayon Befinor, Kisimachtani Adonai before Alecha, Emasei Adecha Haranem, Magalu Masechayam, Meodai Kumashevot. ואנחנו נברך יה, מעתה ויענו, מעתה ויענו, מעתה ויענו, הללויה, hallelujah, hallelujah. Page 218, Psalm 150.
Hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah el bekodsho. Hallelujah birkia uzo. Hallelujah bigurotav. Hallelujah. Kero good Lord. Hallelujah. 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 Betake a shofar. Hallelujah. Beneve bekinor. Hallelujah. Betohu machor. Hallelujah. Beminim beuga. Hallelujah, betziltele shama. Hallelujah, betziltele trua. Kol haneshama te hallelujah. Kol haneshama te hallelujah. 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 Hallelujah.
Nishmat kol achai tevarech Shimcha Adonai Eloheinu. He's silently on page 219. Now on the top of page 220. Ilufinu maleh shirakayam shonei rina vesiftote shvam kemacheve akina ve'merot kashemesh ve'ayah Can Israel Shamayim Ve'alei Kado אנחנו מספיקים להודות לך Yeah. We're now on page 222, the second paragraph down from the top. Befi Shtarim Tintalam Divrei Tzadikim Tintar Uveshar Chasidim Tintro V'kedoshim Tintkadashon Israel Vaidbar Shimcha Malkeinu Bechol Dor Vador Yavai Yavai Bye 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 Yavai Yavai Bye Bye Yavai Bye Yavai Yavai Bye 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 Hi Hi Bye Bye Hi Bye Bye Hi Bye. Now rise in body or spirit as we conclude Bezuket Zimran on top of page 223. Remain standing through the Chatzi Kaddish and the Baruch Hu on the next two pages. Yishtabach Shimacha Lahad Malkeinu Ahel HaMelech HaGadol HaKadosh B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Ki Lecha Nae Adonai Eloheinu V'Elohei Avotenu V'Imotenu Sherushbachal V'Zimra U'Memshala HaNetzach Gedula U'Gvura Tila V'Tiferet Kedusha U'Malchut Brachot ve'olam me'ata ve'adonam baruch atah Adonai el melech gadol v'tishbachot el adonai niflot habocher v'shirei zimra melech el chei ha'olamim Yitkadal ve'yitkadash shemei Rabbai Divrach Kirtei v'yamich malchutei V'chayechonu v'yamechonu v'chayei nechol Beit Yisrael B'hagala v'zman kariv v'yimeru Amen Yesh me'Rabba le'alam le'amei alayam Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitbahar v'yitramah v'yitnaseh Vitadar vitale vitalam shemei dekucha leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata damirahan be'alma v'imeru amen. Baruchu et Adonai hamevorach
Adonai Hamborach Leolam Vaed.
Baruch Adonai Hamborach Leolam. Okay, we're going to turn to page 228. We'll read together in English first, and then the three lines of Hebrew just above, beginning with Orchada. Very appropriate.
Yeah,
Let's
mine's
go.
coming up
Yeah.
right now.
Praised are you, Adonai, our God, sovereign of the universe, creator of light and darkness, who makes peace and fashions all things. In mercy you illumine the world and those who live upon it. In your goodness you daily renew creation. How numerous are your works, Adonai, in wisdom you form them all, filling the earth with your creatures. Be praised, Adonai, our God, for the excellent work of your hands, and for the lights you created, may they glorify you. Shine a new light upon Zion, that we all may swiftly merit its radiance. Praised are you, Adonai, creator of all heavenly lights. Or Chadash Shal Tzion Ta'yer. Or Chadash Shal Tzion Ta'yer. Venisken kulanu, venisken kulanu, me'alenu. Venisken kulanu, venisken kulanu, me'alenu. Yada, bimba, yada, bimba, bimba, yada, yada, bimba, yada. We're now to page 230, and we'll read together in English at the top of the page and the Hebrew at the bottom. How deeply you have loved us, Adonai our God, gracing us with surpassing compassion. On account of our forebears, whose trust led you to teach them the laws of life, be gracious to us, teaching us as well. O merciful one, have mercy on us by making us able to understand and discern, to heed, learn, and teach, and lovingly to observe, perform, and fulfill all that is in your Torah. כי בשם קודשך הגדול הנורא בטחנו, נגילה ונשמחה, נגילה ונשמחה בישועתך, והביאנו לשלום מארבע כנפות הארץ, ותוליכנו קוממיות לארצנו. כי אל פועל ישועות אתה ובנו בחרת, וקרבתנו לשמך הגדול סלע באמת. להודות לך על יחדך באהבה, ברוך אתה אדוני, הבוחר בעמו ישראל באהבה. שמע ישראל, אדוני אלוהינו, אדוני אחד. On page 234. וכל לבך וכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר נותנים את צורך היום לבניך, ושיננת לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדגל, ושופטך וקומך, וקשרתם מאוד ידיך, והיו תותפות בין עיניך, וקרבת בזנות ביתך ומשמרך. Page 236. ויאמר אדוני אל משה לאמור, דבר ישראל ואהבת עליהם ועשו בהם ציצית על כנפי בגדיהם לדורתם, ונתנו הציצית הכנף בתיל תכלת, והיה לכם ציצית וראיתם אותו, וזכרתם בכל מצוות אדוני ועשיתם אותם, ולא תטורו לכם אחריכם אשר אתם זונים אחריכם, למען תזכרו עשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לכם, אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם אלוהים, אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אדוני אלוהיכם emet. We're now on page 238, 4 lines up from the bottom in Hebrew. Tehilot le'elyon baruch u'mevorach Moshe u'Miriam u'bnei Yisrael lechanu shir b'simcha rabba ve'amru kulam michanucham ba'elim Adonai mikamocham nekar b'kodesh norat eilotos sefelem yailanai שירה חדשה שיפו גאונים, לשמחה שפתיים, יחד כולם הודו, והמליכו ואמרו, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד, אדוני ימלוך לעולם ועד. צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, ופדחנו מכה יהודה בישראל. גואלנו, אדוני צבאות שמו, קדוש ישראל, ברוך אתה אדוני, God Israel. We'll begin these Amidah together on page 242 and then continue silently from there. As always, please go at your own pace, and when you're finished, you may be seated. Adonai sefatai tiftach ufi yagid milatecha. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Okay, if you're still davening or silent Amidah, please continue exactly as you are. And if you are finished, you can join us on page 324 for the repetition. On page 324, very top of the page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Avotenu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah, Elohei Tovim, Mekol Chachol, Vezolcher Chasdei Avot Veyamot, ומגדולה לפניהם משמו מלך חוזר למשיח המלכים ברוך אתה אדוני מגן בעזרת צרנו אתה גיבור לעולמי וחייתי להושיע משיב הרוח ומוריד השם מקלקל חיים בחסד מקיים מתים ברחמים נדים סומך נופלים ורופא כהנים ומתיר אסורים ומקיים אמונתו לשני מלך ממיت ומחייב ומצמיח ישועה ונאמן אתה לחיות מתים ברוך אתה אדוני מחיי המתים. Page 326. נקדש את שמך בעולם כשם שמכפישים אותו בשמנו היום ככתוב על יד נביאך וקרא זה אל זה בעם קדוש קדוש כבודו אדיר אדירנו אדוני אדיר שמך בכל הארץ ברוך כבוד אדוני ממך אחד הוא אלוהינו הוא אבינו מלכנו הוא מושיענו והוא ישמיענו ורחמיו לעולמנו אמן אלוהים בציון לדור ודור לדור ודור נגיד God לך לדור ודור נגיד God לך ולנצח נצחים קדושתך נקדיש קדושתך נקדיש ושליחך עלינו מפי ימוש לעולם לעולם אמן ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש. All right, Yisrael, touch page 329. ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת מקדש שירים שבת וכולם יספרו ויתגלו לך שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת ונשמיר רצית בו בקדש שבת במדת ימים אותו קראת שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג שבת זכר מעשה בראשית שבת זכר למעשה בראשית שבת ישמחו במלכותך שומרי 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 שבת וקורא עונג Avotinu, Velo Avotinu, Imotinu, Ritzei, Vimnuchatenu. Kadishenu b'mitzvotecha, v'ten chalkenu Toratecha. V'samechenu b'shilatecha, v'talem libeinu, le'odecha b'ha'fileinu, Adonai. Yalla. Ba'ava ratzon Shabbat kodshecha, v'aynu kuva Yisrael mekadshe shemecha, Baruch atah Adonai mekadesh hashabbat. And on page 330, we'll read together in English in the middle of the page. On this Shabbat day, as you, oh wait, you want, this is
No,
the,
you're right.
You tell me.
Yeah, we're good.
Good, okay. On this Shabbat day, as you graciously receive our prayers, help us to hear your call. Grant us enough help to fulfill our duties and the compassion we need to attend to others. Teach us humility that we may perceive our own faults, and grant us the wisdom to be forgiving of others. Give us the courage to be true to our highest selves, and the charity to see the best in those around us. Give us patience enough not to become discouraged, hope enough to overcome all fears for the future, and faith enough to know your presence. O source of blessing, look with favor upon us. May our offerings be acceptable to you. Baruch atah Adonai, shodcha levadcha b'yirah. Return now to page 332, beginning at the bottom of the page. For the expanding grandeur of creation, worlds known and unknown, galaxies beyond galaxies, filling us with awe and challenging our imaginations. Modim anachnu lach. For this fragile planet Earth, its times and tides, its sunsets and seasons, modim anachnu lach. For the joy of human life, its wonders and surprises, its hopes and achievements, modim anachnu lach. For human community, our common past and future hope, our oneness transcending all separation, our capacity to work for peace and justice in the midst of hostility and oppression, modim anachnu lach. For high hopes and noble causes, for faith without fanaticism, for understanding of views not shared, modim anachnu lach. For all who have labored and suffered for a fair world, who have lived so that others might live in dignity and freedom, modim anachnu lach. For human liberties and sacred rights, for opportunities to change and grow, to affirm and choose, modim anachnu lach. We pray that we may live not by our fears, but by our hopes, not by our words, but by our deeds. Baruch atah Adonai, ato shimcha u'lechanai le'odo aleh. We're now on page 334, the very top of the page. Sim shalom, tova u'bracha, te'va chesed ve'rachamim ve'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael, amen. Barchei kulam k'echad ve'or panem, nafat alanu Adonai. Sim shalom, tova u'bracha, te'va chesed ve'rachamim ve'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael. Torah chaim ve'ahavas chesed ve'ahavas chesed u'tzedakah ve'rachamim v'chaim v'shalom. Sim shalom, tova u'bracha, te'va chesed ve'rachamim ve'rachamim ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael. Shalom, tova u'bracha, te'va chesed ve'rachamim ve'rachamim aleinu, ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol Yisrael. Israel, wait, are you drum? Also? Can you drum? Really? Man, you are a talented dude. We need to get you a drum set. Figure out.
It's been a while with a set. But yeah, that was all kick drum.
That's really very cool. That's a skill set I always wish I could have, is somehow to be able to coordinate my right and my left foot. Just in any kind
The
of
best moment when
way.
you're drumming is when each limb is kind of doing its own thing and your brain is shut off and every limb is doing something different.
That's an amazing thing. The
So
closest
hard.
I ever came to that experience was there's the video game with the instruments, not
Oh,
right here in Rock Band.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a Beatles version of it, which you convinced my parents to buy, and which had the drum set. It was great. It felt like the real thing until I realized that I'm actually not capable of it. But anyway, Oseh Shalom, bottom of page 37. Oseh Shalom b'Mram, Uyaseh Shalom Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael. But you know you're getting old when you can accidentally hurt your back just flipping talus over your shoulder. Oh, yeah. Anyway, Gaither, you can take a little break. Relax.
Cool. Can do.
I start to feel like since nobody can see who is or is not here, we should just be making up really wonderful, interesting personalities that showed up in the room.
Hey, I'm all for it.
You know, President Obama, he just showed up in the room. No, we'll never find. So
Especially the little ones. Little ones are great right now.
I know.
They've been rocking us all morning.
Yeah. That was very, very wonderful. I know, because I was thinking about it more when I went home last night. I really do think that was the first time in more than 3 years that we've had a service with kids like directly involved inside.
Yeah.
You know.
Wow.
So boy, that was just fun. Just fun. Well, good Shabbos, everybody. We're gonna read in just a few moments from Parshat Vayeshev. So we're continuing the story, moving now really from the focus of Jacob, as we talked about really in extensive fashion last week, and beginning the Joseph narrative, and Joseph and his brothers, right? It's not just Joseph. Joseph is part of an ecosystem, a family that is quite complex, and we, in the end, are the descendants of this family in particular. Really, this is what creates the basis for what will become the nascent Israelite nation, which eventually becomes, as we know ourselves today, the Yehudim, based on Judah, one of the brothers, not of Yosef, interestingly enough, right? You know, would have seemed that would be the logical path, but no, you know, our two namesakes are really from Israel, Jacob, and his son Judah. But for a conversation for a different time. So in a little bit, we're going to read from the beginning of the Parsha, just in case anybody happens to have the books at home. In the Platt Chumash, that's page 246. In the Women's Torah Commentary, it is on page 211. So again, 211 in the Women's Commentary and 246 in the Platt. And I've been sort of thinking about, it was really an incredible privilege and pleasure on Thursday night to co-teach with our wonderful Dr. Brad Tepper, Bentzi Tepper, as we know him best, certainly in a Torah capacity, in which we focused an entire evening of learning on the concept of dreams and the idea of dreams and the significance of dreams and the science of dreams and the Torah of dreams. And of course, as we pointed out in that it was not accidental that this program happened exactly in this week, because Bentzi knew that this was one of the places in the Torah where we really focus on this idea of the power of dreams, the potential of dreams, and also some of the danger of them. What happens when those dreams are misinterpreted, misunderstood, misrepresented, and the destruction that can result from that. In the case of Yosef, sharing these dreams that he has, in particular, at the beginning of the story with his brothers, who don't take, even his father also does not take kindly to the idea that in his dreams, the imagery, the symbolism seems to be suggesting that at some point or another, I forget the Hebrew phrase I'm going to read, right? Hamloch maloch, right? Like basically that you're going to rule over us, right? This little brother, this little bratty brother, and everybody's going to bow down, right? And that, of course, creates the circumstance that results in Joseph in the pit and results in being sold into slavery and all the things, right? It's a sliding door scenario. Imagine the scenario where that doesn't take place. We're never in Egypt in that way. We don't become enslaved. We don't end up having that narrative. We don't end up in the Sinai. Who knows? So you can take a very easy route here, which is to say all part of predestined experience, had to happen, therefore it happened, and then everything resulted from it. But it's more complex than that. And I think that our tradition, especially the rabbis, really take this idea of, what are dreams to us? What does it mean? And how do we understand it? So the other night, we sort of ran out of time, and there were two texts that I wanted to teach at the end, which I want to bring in now, and to carry sort of forth a little bit of our conversation from the other night. So one of the things that I mentioned and Bentzi mentioned was this idea of the connection between dreams and prophecy, and that there are basically three mechanisms by which prophecy takes place in our tradition. The highest form is panim el panim, which is only, we're told, achieved by Moshe as a quote unquote prophet. The reality is that, Abraham has some experiences that could be described as panim el panim to some degree, but in this real sense, right, Moshe is the only one that presumably has any vision of. I think Ezekiel might have some things to say about that also to some degree, right? But in all these other cases, the experience of prophecy only happens through a chazon, a vision, or a chalom, a dream. So this idea of dreaming is intricately connected to prophecy. And as a result of it, like I said, is elevated into something that needs to be treated with a certain kind of seriousness. So the rabbis in Brachot, in Masechet Brachot, in the Talmud, in the Babylonian Talmud in particular, so they talk about sleep and dreams and a number of things in a very interesting kind of way. So they're having a larger conversation, which we won't go into here, but they identify the fact that the numbers in Hebrew 5, 6, and 10 are mnemonics for the categories to follow. Now, the rabbis of the Gemara then say there are 5 matters in our world which are 1/60th of their most extreme manifestations. Okay, so this idea of b'shishim actually becomes a very relevant conversation in a lot of rabbinic contexts, in particular around laws, for example, of kashrut. There is what, I'm saying Kevin knows about this, what's called batal b'shishim is usually the fast way of saying it. It's the idea that, let's say you're cooking a meat stew, and without realizing it, you have a little bit of, condensed milk or some kind of powder sitting above. And by total accident, a tiny amount of that milk sprinkles into the meat soup. The question is it still permissible to eat because meat and milk have mixed together? And the idea of bitul means something becomes nullified. So long as the amount of milk that falls into the meat is less than 1/60th the amount of the total volume of the meat stew, then it is considered levatel. It's considered nullified within the larger whole. So in this case, that is born out of this idea here that there are certain things, 5 matters in particular, of which 1/60th represents, right, of their most extreme manifestations. So they are fire, honey, Shabbat, sleep, and dreams. And the Gemara explains, our fire is 1/60th of the fire of Gehenna. So Gehenna is I guess if you were going to find some equivalent of hell in our tradition, that would be it. That's a whole nother conversation as to what Gehenna is, but generally speaking, it's not a place you want to go. It's a fiery pit for all intents. So the fire that we experience in life is only 1/60th the power of the fires of Gehenna. Okay, honey is 1/60th of manna. So the description of what manna tasted like and sort of what its element is. So when we get to eat honey, the honey that we have, actually honey most of the time, by the way, when the rabbis are talking about it, is not bee honey, it's usually date honey. But nonetheless, right, that when we eat that honey and we taste that sweetness, that is only 1/60th of what manna would have tasted like, the sweetness of manna. Shabbat, we're told, is 1/60th of Olam Haba, the world to come, which is the reason why really, again, when you live in, Kevin's lived in this experience too, when you live in a real Shabbat environment, the way that people treat Shabbat and its sort of specialness, it comes from this idea, right? That it really is a gift, and it's the closest thing that we have on earth to experiencing whatever the Olam Haba is, which is understood in our tradition to be only good. Okay. Sleep, we're told, is 1/60th of death. And this is actually a phrase that appears in various cultures in various kinds of ways. And the rabbis actually had a very serious feeling about sleep. There was a frightfulness to it. It's part of the reason why we have
things like Hashkivenu at the end of the night or the nighttime Shema, is because there was always this sort of feeling like every time you close your eyes to go to sleep, you may not necessarily wake up in the morning. So you have this sort of element of feeling like it's the closest thing that we have as alive people to whatever the feeling of not existing ultimately is, because we're not conscious of that existence. And then in the end, where we come into our conversation today, a dream, a chalom, is 1/60th of the experience of prophecy. So here we have an idea that whatever we associate with this idea of dreams, for us, right, forget the actual prophets who experience it in a different kind of way. The rest of us basically are getting a very, very, very small taste of what the experience of what it would have been like to be a prophet. So I want to take now the next step and to go to the Ramchal, Rabbi Moshe Chaim Luzzatto. He's an 18th century Italian rabbi, brings out a lot of Kabbalah in particular. I want to give credit to Rabbi Ori Bergman for this translation of his works coming from Derech Hashem in chapter 3. So here's what he says about what happens to us when we're sleeping and when we're dreaming. When we sleep, he says, most of what happens is that our bodies rest and our brains are given the chance to sort out the thoughts of our day. However, something else occurs at the same time. The higher parts of our souls become slightly detached from our bodies. This is why our first prayer upon awakening in the morning is thanking God for returning our souls to us, which we say at the beginning, Modeh Ani. Only the lowest part of our souls, the quote-unquote animal soul that all living creatures possess, stays with us overnight. Once our souls depart our bodies, they are able to roam the spiritual planes of existence where they are most at home. And while there, they may interact with other spiritual entities, such as angels. And we may hear or overhear some of what the future holds in store for us, for our lives. The message may be actual prophecy or simply an omen, depending upon the level of being which communicates with the soul. That information might in turn trickle down into our consciousness and work their way into our dreams. Thus, while dreaming, he says, a person has the potential to become aware of future events, which his waking soul would never be privy to, which will then become mixed in with the rest of the nonsense going through his dreaming mind. So Luzzatto basically is telling us, and this I mentioned on Thursday, but just so that we're all playing in the same conversation, that there is a long-standing tradition that when we go to sleep at night, as I said, it's not just that we're experiencing 1/60th of death, is that we have these sort of two souls within us. One is described as an animal soul. It's the soul that God gave to every living creature in creation, which we all possess. And then we as human beings possess this other layer. And then when we go to sleep, that other layer now is roaming some kind of spiritual plane that we can't achieve while we are awake. It might surprise a lot of us, because there is a hyper-rational side of Judaism, especially in the last couple hundred years. These are my ancestors, who get a little uncomfortable with some of this, spiritual mumbo jumbo, right? But in the end, actually, that's a much longer standing tradition to believe in this idea that there is a spiritual plane, that there are these experiences that go beyond the body and the self. And to some degree, they are a dampened reflection of the pure experience that the prophets experienced, or as pure an experience as they were able to have. But yet we each possess this capacity as well, just to a much more limited degree. And the challenge is that what we hear or what we experience or what we overhear while we're in this spiritual plane is harder to suss out as to what exactly it is that we are meant to take away from it. What are we supposed to do with the dreams themselves? And I think in the end, Yosef's story here that we see play out from the beginning of this parsha to the end, right? His first experience with dreams and how he shares his interpretation of them, or he doesn't even really interpret them, how he just shares his dreams at the beginning and allows others to really interpret it for him. By the end of it, he becomes an interpreter for others, and he helps them to figure out sort of what it is that's going on in their dreams. And so his gift and his, what we'd say, I guess, his blessing and his curse is that he is in this world of dreams in a way that others are simply not, and he's able to converse in them in a way that others are not, but it evolves. And his early state of understanding, I don't even know, we tend to project onto Yosef because the text gives us a sense that he is something of a, I don't know, I don't want to say a bratty child, but perhaps somebody who's not necessarily thinking at that point in his life about how his words and his actions affect others. And so, and then by the end of the story, right, has gone through a whole lot of other life experiences and has sort of come to the point in which, he doesn't just rest on this ability. He sees that there is something quite special in it and that he has a role to play in all of it. But it's powerful in one way or the other. He learns at the beginning and he learns at the end that these dreams are things that can literally change people's lives. And as Betsy pointed out on Thursday, all of us, when it comes to dreams, there is no direct line, right? We don't know and can't ever really know exactly what every dream is meant to mean. But to act as if a dream means nothing, to act as if a dream is just a random series of firing synapses where our brain cleans out things at the end of the day, one can certainly, even from a purely scientific standpoint, one can make that theorem and can sort of try to prove its truth or not. It may be, but in my experience, I think what I said on Thursday is what I find in this week's parsha as well, is that when dreams appear, they are transformative in one way or the other. Either we sort of passively are transformed or we're actively transformed. And while we may not know with certainty what each dream is meant to mean for us, I think that our tradition tells us that when we have those experiences, not to just let them fly away, to really give them the proper thought and attention that they deserve, and to seek out help if one doesn't really know what to make of it. And certainly, I think in Bentsy's work, he's done that many times. And I think that we can learn from our teacher, Yosef, as to seeing both the complexity and the practice of it. So with that, I wish everyone a Shabbat Shalom. A reminder again, we'll read the beginning of the Parsha, the first 11 verses, 246 in the Plat Chumash, 211 in the Women's Torah commentary. And before we get to all that fun stuff, we'll go into our Sibrim and to page 362 for the beginning of Seder Kriyat HaTorah. And Adonai et amo shalom, rachamim, heitiva b'rtzoncha et Zion, tibne komot Yerushalayim, ki b'chad Zion tetzei Torah, Zion tetzei Torah, ulevar Adonai Yerushalayim. Baruch Shenatan Torah. Baruch Shenatan Torah. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai Echad. Shema Israel Adonai Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. Echad Eloheinu Gadol Adonenu Kadosh Shemo. Gadol Adonai Tiruneh Ma Shemo Yachtav. Lecha Adonai Hagedula V'Hagedura V'Atiferet V'Hanetzach V'Hahod Kichol B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Kichol B'Shamayim U'Ba'aretz Lecha Adonai Hamacha Ve'amid Naseh Lekol. Okay, be seated, everyone.
I always feel bad. I just stand here and you You take it up, you take, you just get it ready, so ready. It's
You know what? So then we'll give you some practice. It's Torah stuff is actually something that like they take for granted at school. And I remember they never really taught
It's so
anything
funny,
about
yeah.
any of
It's
it.
an additional like little elective for a half credit that they just started introducing.
Really?
Some people show up to, including like where to find something.
No,
in
but
the-
that's actually a really helpful thing. I mean, you again, because you have Hebrew skills, it's easier for you, but actually for
Easier,
most,
yeah.
yeah, but it's the truth is there's like everything else, right? There are
Yeah.
techniques and those techniques are. And also if, when impossible, roll a Torah with two people.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
like, otherwise there's nothing that will make your wrists and forearms hurt more than
Yep.
rolling a giant Torah by yourself, which.
Even just a little bit is all.
Yeah, but when we get to the high holidays every year, I'm like, oh, I forgot to roll it. And so then you have to just roll and it's hours of.
Good workout,
fun.
right?
Yes, for sure, for sure. So would you like the Aliyah this morning since?
I would love the
okay, good.
Aliyah.
That's fine. I think this will be your first, right? I feel like
Think so, yeah.
yeah, that's crazy. Okay, well, you're just a humble guy, always giving to others. So
Absolutely.
that's it. But I will definitely need your help with our reading this morning because
Oh, yeah.
I think there are at least a few places where you bravely keep an eye on. me.
Always.
Okay, so Yamod
Abraham.
Abraham.
Ben. Esther Abraham.
Esther Abraham, Nalia, Arishona, Benakul. And then Bracha should be in the book there somewhere.
Baruch et Adonai HaMevorach.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vahed.
Baruch Adonai Baruch Leolam Vaed. Baruch Ata Adonai Eloheinu Melech Haolam. Asher bachar banu mikol ha'amim v'natan lanu et Torato. Baruch Ata Adonai Notein HaTorah.
Amen. Vayeshev Yaakov be'eretz megorei aviv be'eretz Canaan. Ele toldot Yaakov Yosef ben Sheba Esrei Shana Haya ro'eh et echav batzon Vehu nar et bnei Bilha ve'et bnei Zilpa neshei aviv vaya ve'Yosef et divatam ra'a el avihem ve'Yisrael ahav et Yosef mikol banav Hivens kunim hu lo vasa lo ketonet pasim vayiru echa ki otom avihem mikol echav vayisneu oto velo yachlu dabro leshalom Vayachalom Yosef Chalom Vayaged Le'echav Vayosifu Od Zenoto Vayomer Aleichem Simuna Chalom Hazeh Asher Chalamti Vehine אנחנו מעלמים עלומים בתוך השדה והנה כמה אלומותי וגם ניצבה והנה תסובנה אלומותיכם ותשתחווינה לעומתי לעומתי מעשי, אוקיי. ויאמרו לאחיו המלוך תמלוך עלינו אם משול תמשול בנו ויוסיפו עוד שנאותו על חלומותיו ועל דבריו ויחלום עוד חלום אחר Vayesaper oto le'echav, vayomer, hine chalamti chalom od, vehine hashemesh vehayareach, ve'achad asar kochavim mishtachavim li. Vayesaper el aviv ve'el echav, vayigar bo aviv, vayomer lo ma hachalom ze asher chalamta avon avo ani ve'imcha ve'achecha Lehishtachavot lecha artzam, vaikneu vo echav, va'avir shamar et hadavar.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet v'chayei olam nata b'dorotenu. Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah.
Very nice.
Yeah, I got one.
Thank you, thank you.
Right.
Okay, you can go relax. Hey, Marcia, good shout.
Good time.
Yes, very good time. Very, very good time.
Don't
Don't worry, you were here exactly when you were preordained to be. You missed the whole conversation on prophecy. Just, you showed up exactly.
As if you heard it before and just knew.
Right. Very good, very good. All right, we'll turn now to offer a Mishaberach, our healing prayer for this morning on page 371. Mishaberach Avotenu v'imotenu Abraham Yitzchak v'Yaakov Sarah Rivka Rachel v'Leah Hu Yivarech et hacholim ha'elu. This morning, we're thinking of Bentzi Tepper, Allison Luckman, Malka Bat Chaya Sura, Michael Klinghoffer, Amy and Warren Cass, Rivka Bat Rachel, Leah Bat Naomi, Gedalia Ben Sylvia, Lorraine Danis, David Dowling, Sibia Devora Bat Francis, Muriel Hirsch, Michelle Sawicki, Francis Kirschman, Shelley Newmark, Diane Axelrod, Gabriella Rose Spicer, Barbara Kushner, David Kyle Klotman, Lorraine Davis, Machoil Ben Chananya, Devora Batsima, Rebecca Snyder, Jeffrey Miller, Shelley Lyman, Deborah Block Kroll, Sylvia Oren, Stanley Rappaport, Karen Layton, Debbie Bookvar, Carol Javna, Lori Nisanoff, Roberta Kyle, Miriam Lachaya. In addition to the names that we just read, does anyone have any additional names to share?
Oji Tapassi, Ashley and Maddie, Mary Moore, Diane Schwartz, Erica Hens, Thomas Jackson, Vivian Travis, Lenore Parker, Renee D'Amico, John Graham, Michael Ross, Amba and Don Stapleton, Meredith Berger, Lenore Parker, and Louise Lee.
I'll bet those watching at home to add as well. And
Duran Kita.
Akadosh Baruch Hu Yimalei Rachamim Alehem L'Hachalimam L'Rapotam L'Chazikam Yishlach Lehem Mehira Refuah Shlema Min HaShamayim Refuat HaNefesh Refuat HaGuf Vashta B'Agalav Bizman Karev and Amar. Amen. May the one who blessed our ancestors Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, Sarah, Rebecca, Rachel, and Leah bless and heal those who are suffering. May the Blessed Holy One be filled with compassion for their health to be restored and their strength to be revived. May God swiftly send them a complete renewal of body and spirit, and let us say together, Amen. El na refana refuah shelema. El na refana Now rise in body or spirit as we lift and dress the Torah on page 370.
Torah, Tziv, Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe. Torah, 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 Tziva lanu Moshe.
Okay, please be seated. The Haftarah this morning coming from the book of Amos, prophet Amos. And the connection in this case, as you'll see on page 263, is that our Torah portion talks again about Joseph's brothers conspiring to sell him into slavery. And the first verse of the Haftarah of Amos, many, many generations later, one of the things that he identifies and castigates, in particular, the wealthy Israelites for doing, is selling a tzaddik, the innocent in this case, into slavery. And this provides the link, therefore, to Joseph, who is referred to as a tzaddik in the Talmud itself. So, we're again going to be on page 263. Before that, we'll offer the opening blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher bachar b'nbi'im tolim v'ratzav et divreihem hanemarim b'emet. Baruch atah Adonai habocher b'torah v'Moshe avno u'v'Yisrael amo. Thus says the Eternal One, for Israel's 3 transgressions, and for 4, I will revoke judgment. Because they sell the innocent for silver, the needy for a pair of sandals, they who trample the heads of the poor into the earth's dust, and make crooked the road of the meek, father and son go to the same girl, thus they profane my holy name. Near every altar they lie on clothing taken in pledge with the proceeds of those who have been fined. They drink wine in the house of their God. Yet it was I who destroyed the Amorites before them, who were tall as cedars and sturdy as oaks. I destroyed their fruit on top and cut off the roots beneath. And it was I who brought you up out of the land of Egypt and led you in the wilderness 40 years to take possession of the land of the Amorites. I raised up prophets from amongst your children and Nazarites from amongst your young. Is this not so, people of Israel, says the Eternal One? But you made the Nazarites drink wine and prohibited the prophets from prophecy. Now I will make you totter as a wagon totters under a full load of newly cut grain. Flight shall fail the swift, the strong shall find no strength, warriors shall not escape with their lives. The archer shall not stand firm, the swift runner shall not escape, nor shall the horseman escape with his life. On that day, says the Eternal One, even the bravest of soldiers shall flee away naked. People of Israel, hear this word the Eternal has spoken about you, about the whole crowd that I brought up out of the land of Egypt. You alone have I known, of all the families of the earth. Therefore I will punish you for all your iniquities. Do 2 walk together without having arranged it? Does a lion in the forest roar when it has no prey? Does a young lion growl in its den without having caught something? Does a bird fall into a trap on the ground that has no bait? Does a trap spring up from the ground where there is nothing to capture? When the shofar is sounded in the town, do not the people tremble? When evil falls on a city, does not the Eternal make it happen? The Eternal God does nothing without revealing its purpose. To God's servants, the prophets, the lion has roared, who will not fear? The Eternal God has spoken, who can but prophesy? And this is that really helpful liner note at the end, right? What does it mean, who can but prophesy? His God's warning is so overwhelming that Amos must ultimately speak out. We'll turn now back to our prayer books, page 372 at the very bottom of the page. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, tzur kol ha'olamim, tzadik v'kol Adonai. הנאמן האומר במסה, המדבר ומקיים, שכל דבריו אמת וצדק, על התורה ועל הפקודה ועל הנביאים ועל יום השבת הזה, שנתת לנו אדוני אלוהינו לקדושה ולמנוחה, לכבוד ותפארת, Al hakol Adonai Eloheinu, Anachu modim u'mevarchim otach. Yitbarach shimcha b'fi kol chai k'amim le'olam va'ed. Baruch atah Adonai Mekayem shasham. Turn now to page 376 at the bottom of Prayer for Our Country. O guardian of life and liberty, may our nation always merit your protection. Teach us to give thanks for what we have by sharing it with those who are in need. Keep our eyes open to the wonders of creation, alert to the care of the earth. May we never be lazy in the work of peace. May we honor those who have died in defense of our ideals. Grant our leaders wisdom and forbearance. May they govern with justice and compassion. Help us all to appreciate one another and to respect the many ways that we may serve you. May our homes be safe from affliction and strife, and our country be sound in body and spirit. Together we say,
Amen.
Page 377, a prayer for the state of Israel. Avinu Shabbat Tzur Yisrael v'go'alo, barech et Medinat Yisrael, reishit tzmichat ge'ulateinu. Hagen aleha be'evrat chasdecha, ufros aleha sukat shlomecha, ushlach orcha v'amitcha l'rasheha, sareha v'yoatzeha. V'tagnem be'itza tova milfanecha, v'natata shalom ba'aretz, v'simchat olam liyoshveha, v'nomar amen. O Heavenly One, protector and redeemer of Israel, bless the state of Israel, which marks the dawning of hope for all who seek peace. Shield it beneath the wings of your love, spread over it the canopy of your peace. Send your light and truth to all who lead and advise, guiding them with your good counsel. Establish peace in the land and fullness of joy for all who dwell there. Together we say, Amen. Turn back to page 374. We'll rise in body or spirit as we conclude the Torah service. Yeah, hallelujah, Shem Adonai, Kiskah, Shem Adonai, V'sham Mayim, V'ayim, Tehillah, L'chom, L'nei Yisrael, Ha'keloh, Hallelujah, Hallelujah. Ilekato natati lechem toti Vayini lama tzivah v'tov Denachecha tacheina v'chol tzilotecha shalom Hashivenu We'll turn now to page 586 at the bottom of the page, Aleinu L'Shabbat. Aleinu L'Shabbat Adon HaKol, Lateidu Yosef Reshit, Shelo Asanu K'goyei Ha'aratzot, Velo Samanu K'mishpachot Ha'adama, Shelo Sam Chalkeinu Kahen, V'gor Aleinu K'chol Ha'monam, V'anachnu Korim U'mishtachavim U'modim, Lifnei Me'elam, Page 591. Ask those in mourning and those observing yard site to please remain standing. Everyone else may be seated. We think first of those who passed in recent months: Martin Blake, Lynn Cowan, Arlene Eber, Jay Fagan, Chaim Bear Greenwald, Sandy Greenwald, Jane Beard Cass, Gertrude Katz, Buddy Kossoff, Elaine Krotman, Emmanuel Kiprios, David Lieberman, Sandra Luongo, Norma Polsek, Lillian Schwartz, David Sent, Anita Sheldon, Alan Silver, Sandy Slip, Larry Wartor, Peter Weinstein, Rita Weitzman, Matthew Adam Zimmerman, and Yael Zordar. We also mark the yard sites that occurred during the last week for Harry Abderkin, Annie Bookstaver, Emil Brill, Lillian Farber, Ellen Frank, Aaron Gastworth, Frida Siblowitz Hertz, Mary Kirschner, Anton Jacob Kurz, Janet Leonard, Leah Levine, Leo Leibowitz, William Littman, Rosalind Melankoff, Harlan Noddle, Richard Peak, Elizabeth Pence, Lillian Ronick, Lisa Schneidman, Josephine Schwartz, Nina Elizabeth Schumann, Doris Serow, Melvin Serow, Abraham Abba Weinstein, Pearl Weinstein, Ralph Weinstein, and Rose Zuckerman. Anyone else saying Kaddish this morning? We'll invite those in mourning to join me on page 598. Yitkadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabbah.
Amen.
Be'alma divra chirutei ve'amlich malchutei v'chayechon u'v'yomechon u'chayei dechol beit Yisrael v'agalau b'zman kariv v'imru.
Amen.
Yehei shemei Rabbah mevarach la'alam u'lamei almaya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar v'yitramam v'yitnaseh v'yithadar v'yit'aleh v'yithalal shemei dekudsha brichu. Leila min kol birchata v'shirata tushbechata v'nechamata v'amiram be'alma v'imru. Amen. Yehei shalama rabba min shemaya v'chayim aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Oseh shalom b'mramav hu yaseh shalom aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael v'imru. Amen. Zichronam libracha, may every one of their memories be for a blessing. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom, Cantor Kevin.
Shalom, Rabbi Dan.
How you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. Marsha, how you doing? Good. Yeah. So announcements. First announcement, please join us for Torah study at 12 o'clock. We begin on Zoom and on time, as we always do. Tomorrow, some great things going on. First at 4 o'clock, the teens of the community are going to have their own pre-Hanukkah party. And then at 6 o'clock, we will gather at the windmill in town. Cantor Kevin will be there. And we got a lot of fun things planned. We've got, as always, hot chocolate, souffle for everybody, not just for the kids, but try to prioritize the kids. Glow candles, those are for the kids. Oh, okay, no glow sticks for, no, none for Marsha, just for the kids. And boxes of Hanukkah candles, which is always very helpful because we're going to celebrate our first night of Hanukkah together, which is great. And then, what did you say?
Hot chocolate is good.
The hot chocolate is good. The best was there was years ago where Lou arranged, I think, for us to get it from Grindstone, which is tops, really good. But I think ours comes from other sources, but it's very good nonetheless. And also a reminder that as we've done the last few years, as the other nights of the holiday, which are also very important, progress, we're going to still do something together. So each of the 7 nights, there'll be a virtual candle lighting at 6 o'clock each night with different members of our community, myself, Shelley. The only one where there's some difference in that case is that for the night of Shabbat, on Friday night, we'll light candles as part of Shabbat services. But otherwise, you can join us if you're members of the congregation or you get our emails. You can join us on that Zoom. Just so it's clear, though, that won't be streamed out to the website or YouTube or anything like that. It's really just for our people on a Zoom to get some time together and light candles. So the main idea is if you've got your Chanukiah at home and you've got your candles at home, get that ready, and then we'll all light together on Zoom each night again at 6 o'clock, continuing through the entire holiday. Just a reminder of a few things. We have a regular-ish week this week. Niddah Mitzvah on Monday at 11:30. My Heschel class on 12 o'clock on
In person and Zoom.
in person and Zoom for knitting, which is great. Only Zoom for the Heschel class at 12 o'clock. Social Justice Committee has its regular virtual meeting. There is no Hebrew school on Monday or Wednesday this coming week, and I believe that's true through the end of the year as well. Shelley gets well-deserved break in that case. And again, Kol HaKavod to Kevin, who prepared our youngins so well last night. And if you missed it, you can go back and watch the video because it's
Highly
very
recommend.
very cute.
Yeah.
It's great. Good.
Good job.
Yeah, right where it's due. And yes, so we passed the deadline for the civil rights trip to Alabama, but we got a wonderful response to it. A lot of people coming, which is really great. But I think, oh no, sorry, it's extended to December 20th. So if you'd still like to come, you can still sign up then. Just make sure that you fill out the form, send in your deposit monies and all that good stuff. And we're off and running. It's good. Great. Well, good jobs, everybody. Chagarim Sameach in advance. See you tomorrow. Let's really show up at 6 o'clock tomorrow night. That'll be a lot of fun. And let's end our service. You want to do an Al Hanisim again? For the heck of it?
Sure.
Okay. Al Hanisim.
I think you can actually find.
Yes, it is in here.
-1 thing on page 572.
Oh, that's true. So it's nice actually on,
572.
oh, so that's good.
So,
That's right,
because
puts
the
out here
words
on the
start
line,
off
yeah.
with Honolulu, and then there's only one
Yeah.
word that's different instead of it. Where is it?
Yeah, no, actually, it's a very interesting thing, by the way. There are two,
God.
no, there are two different variants of this text where the order of them is different. And it's not,
Really?
yeah, it's not just us, it's actually if you can find Larry Hoffman, you can talk to him about it. It's a fascinating history.
Fascinating.
Yeah. But anyway, you can certainly find it there on the bottom, but I think it also is in. No,
He's
it's
gonna find
interesting.
the same page.
No, I think it's there for sure, but I thought maybe it would just be in one of the
Oh,
other.
in the Hanukkah
Yeah,
section?
but
No, it's not. I checked there. That's why I was like, oh, it's not there.
Yeah, 5 seconds.
And so you find it
So
there.
bizarre. Okay,
Yeah.
well, we'll go by you and whatever cadence and whatever order you go with. Okay.
Great. Al hanisim ve'al ha'porkan ve'al ha'truot ve'al ha'turot ve'al she'asita lavotenu b'ayim v'azman Al hanisim ve'al ha'porkan ve'al ha'truot ve'al milchamot she'asita lavotenu b'ayim v'azman hazeh.
Good. Isn't there like a beat part? So like,
No, there is. Or
I feel like it just goes up, it just goes up, but yeah, that's the one I have a hard time reaching that.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, you do have very impressive range though. I can't reach that.
Yeah.
I think falsetto Hanukkah songs is a very
my
interesting
gosh.
basis for a. Yeah, Marsha doesn't look like she'd buy that album.
I don't think
I don't think I would buy that.
Even
Okay,
if I want it.
page 604. V'shamru b'nei Israel tashem Beini uvein b'nei Israel lo tileon lo tileon V'shamru b'nei Israel tashem לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם ברית עולם. כי ששת ימים עשה את השבת ואת הארץ ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפל שבת וינפל שבת וינפש ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדורותיהם ברית עולם. על כן ברך עליהם שבת ויקדשהו תבריא ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם בורא פרי הגפן.
Amen.
Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat Shalom. If we want to open up the office, there are challahs, except my keys, you don't have, yeah, well, my keys are here. But if you got it, bracha.
You got it? Bracha. That's a great shirt. You just made up a great
I
shirt.
did, but I'll never get credit, even though there's video evidence. Good Shabbos. We'll see you in Torah study very shortly.
That's good.